Let me start by saying that Central America is the third most important market in Latin America. Do you agree on that or no? Well, we are going to convince you that yes. In population, first is Brazil, 210 million people, and then Mexico, 115 million people, and then comes Central America with 46 million people. We're not talking about GDP, but that gives us the idea of the increase of the market in terms of opportunities. There is an important growth in the middle class, in flights and tourism and all that. And that's why it's very important for you to know that that's what we're thinking in Central America. There's another fact that I would like to tell you that, or to ask you, who do you think is the most important partner in terms of trade with South Florida? Do you think it's China or maybe Brazil? No, it's Central America. Is Central America the most important partner of South Florida? Okay, let's start with the question I would like to ask: how marketers can benefit for increasing growth in terms of opportunities, in terms of challenges, and stability in Central America? Maybe I will ask Jorge Oyer to start our debate. Thank you.
Buenas tardes. I was just a few days ago enjoying this movie, A Beautiful Mind, again. I was enjoying Russell Crowe's performance and this whole story about Dr. Nash. And then this scene came over where he has this massive breakthrough and understands the theory that is basically presented all along the movie. And it's precisely when they're at the bar and they finally get to see this amazing, incredibly beautiful blonde. And a whole bunch of thoughts from Dr. Nash related to the fact that all of them wanted to get laid. So obviously, if they all go after the blonde, chances are most of them won't. However, if by understanding how all of them can win, he basically comes up with a very different idea. The whole point here is that by understanding that there are other options besides the great-looking blonde, and I'm speaking here of Brazil, and then speaking of Argentina, and when you think about Mexico, you tend to ignore, in a way or two, the importance, the relevance of a market like ours, which is good because, in a way, competition is not as fierce. But on the other hand, it just allows and opens a great deal of opportunities. I think that from our perspective, I don't think there's a company, there's a group, there's a network that can afford the cost of ignoring Central America. And while many of them are still ignoring it, thinking of Central America as a place where you send satellites, where you send some affiliates, where you fill in with some quote-unquote partners or business partners. Many of us are taking advantage of the situation in a region that is loaded with opportunities that can certainly move on from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in a few seconds. And I'd like to share with you a personal story. Just a couple of years ago, we started a company in digital production. We basically found an opportunity to turn ourselves into a center for execution for multinational companies. We had about 10 people. We went on knocking doors all over the place, from New York to Boston to London, and we were able, in just a few months, to nail down an incredibly successful deal with the Publicis Group, for which we currently employ about 300 people, incredibly talented Central Americans, English-speaking, today producing for the Viva Key Group, which basically have most of the digital agencies from Publicis Group all together, and have created not only employment and opportunities, but has given us an incredible opportunity because the talent is there. On top of everything, we have a great deal of talent. I think we have in Central America basically a link that must be part of your network, and we're here basically to tell you and share with you some of the ideas that certainly can become an opportunity for most of you.
Jorge Abadia, what do you think?
Well, thanks to Portada for the invitation and for this great panel. We were saying, and Ronald was saying the importance of Central America, no? And how big is Central America. No? I would say that even we should consider Central America as like a unique market. There are some differences between the countries. No? There are differences in size. No? I was looking at one of the sources I've been using for a long time, which is the CIA, and I tell you that they have in the fact book a lot of figures for use in Latin America. No? So I would say that Costa Rica, for example, is like the size of West Virginia. Guatemala is the size of Tennessee. El Salvador is a country, one of the smallest countries in Central America, and has the size of Massachusetts. Panama, it has the size of South Carolina. Nicaragua is one of the largest countries, and it has the size of the New York State. Honduras is closer to Honduras is like Tennessee as well, and Belize is again like El Salvador, so it's like Massachusetts. So we have a different kind of countries, and all of them really interesting. You know? I think that we have an incredible things and good things in Central America. One is that we have one of the highest expenditures in education, if we compare education versus GDP. Most of the countries are above 3%, and in Costa Rica especially is above 6%. So I think it gives you the platform of the growth that we are going to have in Central America. We have a growth in the economies in Central America like it looks Southeast Asia. I mean, Panama is growing over 10%. Costa Rica is growing over 6.5%. So most of the countries are growing very impressive and very fast in Central America. However, on the other hand, I would say that there's no only good stories. No, one of our main concerns, I would say, in Central America is that it depends also on the countries. We have to be very careful on how easy or difficult it is to do business in these countries. Regarding that, Panama is the easiest place to create a company, and on the other hand, Costa Rica is one of the countries where it's more difficult to set up a company, and we have to consider that. I can tell you the story because we started a company from scratch in Costa Rica. We are operating 7 months ago. We started our operations. It's a great market, it's a great business, but it's tough also. No? And in my perspective, I'm running a telecom company. It's impressive the the usage of technology, the usage of data that we are having in Central America. And we are having some figures, and when we compare to the rest of the Telefonica group, we have over 300 million customers, more than 200 we have in Latin America, and we are achieving in Central America, and specifically in Costa Rica, data that it's unbelievable. I mean, we are going to end this year with more than 80% of our customer base with a smartphone. So it's something that probably you can find in Hong Kong, but not in other countries, not in other markets. And that's Central America, and that's Costa Rica. And also the usage of data is very advanced. No? So I'm very happy because they only have one provider in Costa Rica in the last years, no? But we arrived into this incredible market, as I tell you, 7 months ago, and we are very happy with that. No? So I think the opportunities are great. The growth of the economy is really impressive. But on the other hand, we don't have to forget some pending issues about how easy or difficult, for example, is to set up a business in Central America.
Thank you, Jorge. Ernesto, what in terms of opportunities and challenges for your company?
Thank you, Ronald, and thank you all for the invitation. Indeed, it is a very large group that you described. Indeed, it is a very large population base that we're talking about in Central America. It is unexpectedly distributed, though. Sometimes you might expect, a lot of the bottom of the pyramid concentration in Central America. And you think about Central America and the 20 years lag information that comes in the news about the different governments. And you would expect, income segmentation to be heavily on the bottom of the pyramid. That is not necessarily the case. Let me tell you that very surprisingly, between 20 and 25% of the population in Central America, and it does vary by country, like you said, Jorge, but 20 to 25% is of the income segments A and B. And that does provide, in addition to the other segments, a very interesting consumer base for our products. You were touching, Jorge, upon a very interesting point earlier when you commented, and you said, of the lack of or opportunities in more competition, and maybe some of the markets opening more a little bit in terms of the players in the industry. To me, that represented a dichotomy, actually, when accepting this honorable invitation to come and speak to you. Because, I operate around 440 stores in Central America, retail stores. We also do financing with an employee force of about 6,200. And we have known this fact for a long time. And we have been capitalizing on this growth opportunity for a long time. So we've been opening stores in Central America at the ratio of 30 to 60 a year, some countries even 40 a year, and having very good business doing that. So I thought to myself, why would I come here and tell everybody about this great secret? Why would I do that? No, but the truth is that the more the merrier. In a developing economy, people need to have different opportunities. And this large base of consumers that you described, Ronald, actually is changing, and is changing rapidly in Central America. They have more access to information, and we'll get into that a little bit later, I think, with some connectivity questions. But they do a lot more comparison. So they're able to assert their needs a lot easier. They're able to know exactly what they want, and they don't know how to meet them, because sometimes the products aren't there. The business provider isn't there. And that's where you and I come in. That's where we provide our goods, and that's where we capitalize on those opportunities to be able to create this growing and opportunities. So from my perspective, I have to agree with Jorge when he said, you're missing out. If you're going just for the big ones, you're missing out on a region that is rapidly growing, rapidly changing, and providing increasing opportunities for business.
Thank you, Ernesto. But then, how to target the market? Do you need to segment the message, or in different countries. Let's start with you, Ernesto.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to, try to tell you about how to do segmentation. I think that goes back, a long ways to where, that's already in the past between us. But you do have to realize the differences between the countries. And like Jorge Abadia was saying, geographically they're very close, but they are different economies, and they have different distributions of interests within these economies. It would be a mistake to assume, I would think, in my opinion, to assume that it will behave the same. Costa Rica, for example, has very marked differences with Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. El Salvador tends to be more like Costa Rica in the income segmentation. Most of these countries do behave like a pyramid. Obviously you do have about 25% of your consumer base at the top of the pyramid in Central America as a whole, but in places like Costa Rica, it isn't a pyramid. 51% of all population in Costa Rica earns more than $1,000 a month. So it's actually more like a rombo, like a different shape. And you would not have the same success if you do target the Costa Rican customer the same as the rest of Central America. So yes, there is a lot to get into in terms of how the countries are divided, and I would say that Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua are more similar. El Salvador is somewhere in between, and Costa Rica is by far the more developed economically. So,
Jorge, in terms of how to get there, you know more than
I think one of the other great secrets here is much related to the fact that women here and everywhere, they're the shopper in chief. And that's not an exception in Central America. Just about every decision is either taken or strongly or carefully influenced by women. So just about everything we're doing right now in Central America has a priority thinking and designing for women, which doesn't mean we're designing pink. It's not following cliches, is understanding her better than ever. And Central America is proving to be an incredibly fertile ground for that kind of approach. Also, in the areas of targeting, I think we should target at every single opportunity that is hard to be made elsewhere. I mean, just take a look at some of the Cannes Award-winning ideas from Central America recently. We can do things in Central America that you can hardly do elsewhere. If you have some time later, take a look at the ring towns, an idea in Guatemala that involved really the kind of approach and collaboration that would be certainly very difficult to be done in a developed country. Take a look at the Romeria that was a silver lion in Cannes just 2 years ago. It involved the Catholic Church. And it happened basically because in smaller countries, there's more flexibility. The kind of impact or possibilities to lead this to chaos or problems or conflicts are smaller. So it brings in additional opportunities to be creative, to innovate, to do what hasn't been done before. And for that reason, I certainly believe that I would certainly continue to focus on women and continue to focus on all of those possibilities that are hard to find in bigger markets.
Well, after this statement of Jorge, I'm not really sure what I'm going to say. Well, first of all, I want to tell you that neither of the 3 of the 4 people that we are here, we are paid by any government entity in relation with tourism, because it looks like that we are saying that it's very easy, go to Central America and discover Central America. I mean, we are here, I mean, these guys are from Central America, I'm from Spain, but I work in Central America. But we are here because we do business in Central America. I think there's a great opportunity to do business in Central America. How to target? I agree with what Ernesto was mentioned. It's incredible the income, the level of income and disposable income that people have in Central America is higher than in the rest in Latin America. And it's something that we should consider. No? Again, I'm talking about my sector, my business, and sometimes how difficult it is to realize or how different they are the countries where you are in. And we launched in January this year in Costa Rica the iPhone 4S. So we were wondering, will be successful or not the iPhone 4S in Costa Rica? 6 months later, and we have presence and we have operations in 14 countries in Latin America. Costa Rica is the third market in terms of selling iPhones of customers of iPhone for Telefonica. We have Brazil, we have Chile, and the third country with a 4.5 million inhabitants is Costa Rica. So this is something that we couldn't believe before that. No? And I think that when we consider in segmentation, again, for me, we have to, although it's a unique region, we have to differentiate a lot of the countries. Ernesto was mentioned. I think that for me, maybe the surprise in Central America is Nicaragua. I think Nicaragua, just giving apart any political ideas or connotations, they facilitate a lot to do business in Nicaragua. The country is growing a lot, and they are doing and facilitate a lot the growth, the innovation, and the creation of companies in Central America. On the other hand, there are some countries like Honduras where it's really more difficult to do business, but again, the opportunity is there, and in terms of targeting, I would say that you should consider that you could spend, and the people spend a lot of money in consuming in Central America more than you think.
I don't know if this is allowed. I'm going to interrupt here for a second. I just want to comment on something that Jorge said. I don't want to leave the idea that it is, all rosy in Central America, and yes, it is something that you need to look at right away. But I think that a lot of the opportunities that are there actually arise because of the difficulties. Logistics, for example. If you figure out how long it takes for a container to go from Panama to Guatemala, and you figure out the hours going through the customs, and you take into account all the infrastructure in the roads and so on, it's going to be extremely slow. They say it's around 12 to 15 miles per hour. It's like if you would travel at 10 miles per hour, 15 miles per hour.
And the worst thing is that the smaller the country, the larger the size of the stamp in your passport.
Yeah, exactly. However, this represents a great opportunity. If you think about coming to the women of Central America, like Jorge was saying, I would argue that you need to come willing to jump steps. Just like if you go directly to cellular technology and you jump the landlines, you need to think about Central America in those terms. It's not your usual growth of the business. You have to be able to jump directly to the new status quo, and that will allow more business to be nurtured and grow in Central America. There are opportunities in the difficulties. I just wanted to let you know.
Thank you. I believe we have about 10 minutes, something like that, because we started late. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Because there's a lot but there's another thing that we need to know. We need to know. How about connectivity? Jorge Abadia, your company is one of the responsible of connectivity in Central America. How is that going?
Well, we always say that telecommunications is really the engine of the growth of the economies, and it's not just a phrase. I mean, we really think it's true, and we, in the history that we have in Latin America since the beginning of the 90s, we noticed that. I mean, we entered in Brazil, for example, in December 96, and then stronger with in 98 with the privatization of Telebras. And the telecommunications was a real change in the country. It changed the ways to do business. And I think that we are doing the same in Central America. I mean, sometimes some companies go too far. No? You think that you need the latest technology. I think there are a lot of technologies we are using, for example, in Costa Rica and in most of the countries in Central America, the HSPA plus, and with this wireless technology, you can have up to 10 megabytes per second, no? And 10 megabytes per second is something that nobody had in Central America or in other countries years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, no? So I'm sure it's going to change dramatically the situation. I mean, maybe Costa Rica has a unique situation because they had a monopoly, and right now there are at least 3 operators, so the dynamic of the country and of the business is very, very hyper, but it's something, again, I think it's a real driver of the growth of the economies, and I can tell you that Central America today is at the level of any country in Latin America, but not only Latin America, in Europe. And again, I'd like to give examples to you. When we were just making our network, we thought about the usage of 2 gigas per customer per month in data. And it was the highest level that we have in Europe with this usage. We are having right now in Costa Rica levels of the average is about 10 gigabytes per customer per month. No? So we are having the experience that in Costa Rica, the people are using like 5 times the level of data that we are having, for example, in our operations in the UK or in Germany. No? And again, these are figures that are really impressive, I think.
Okay, thank you. Jorge Oyer, for digital media, you need connectivity. Do you agree with Jorge? And what's...
Absolutely. However, for me, connectivity means it has a different meaning. In the sense that the best part of the living in these days is that we're incredibly connected. Faster or slower. We're basically seeing a whole bunch of phenomena that are happening, social phenomena that are a consequence of the fact that we're all connected as we've never ever been. Just a few months ago, Hernan Jimenez, movie producer, he was able to produce a movie basically because he was short of funds. He went out looking for money. He knocked on a few doors until he found Kickstarter. And he was able to raise about $70,000 that he was missing by simply publishing his needs, what was his project about, and people immediately connected, and they followed his project and funded. Today, if you want to get some help at a design of a game, it's called Potatoes. If you basically look for them in Kickstarter, they're looking for money, and if you pour in more than $100, then your face is going to be there. One of the characters is going to be named after you, and will have probably some kind of a similarity, because we're all so incredibly connected that today just about everything can be crowdsourced, and that's making a real difference in what we're doing. And I believe, yes, when you're speaking of massive, large markets like the USA, Yes, you have the volume, you have the scale. However, in smaller countries, we're finding also the spirit. It's right there. It just, we connect and make it a national movement with certain ease. And that's why we have so many stories of how technology, of course, is bringing in all of its power. And then we're finding in all of our creativity, our innovative minds, getting all together and connected, and finding a way to accelerate all of the processes, basically based, fund, and made possible through the source of technology. So from that perspective, connectivity is certainly something that is making a world of difference in Central America, just as it is in the rest of the world. However, I do see a speed that is quite amazing.
Oh, so that's why everybody's coming to the stores to buy so much electronics, huh? Central America is not being left out in this electronic craze. We are selling more and more products in electronics in Central America than anybody would imagine. And our consumers are spending more and more of their wallet. Their share of wallet in electronics in Central America has been growing in double-digit percentages year on year. So the connectivity that my colleagues have described actually ends up producing more business, actually ends up generating a lot more activity, and that is a challenge for all of us, the operators, as we need to run and be attent to content and to different products that are more rapidly getting the customer needs in their hands. So it's very interesting, and it is a rapidly changing segment also. So
Maybe we have some questions from the audience. We still have some 2-3 minutes. Just 2 questions, please.
Okay, I want to make sure I understood correctly, but I thought you said that smartphone penetration in Costa Rica was 80%?
It's not in Costa Rica, it's it's Telefonica. I mean, we are going to end up this year with 30% of our handsets being smartphones.
30%. 30%?
No, 80%. Yeah.
Thanks. And what do you think is the smartphone penetration in all of Costa Rica?
Higher than in other countries, probably will be in the range of 35-40%. And again, the case of the iPhone, it's amazing. It's amazing how many iPhones we are selling, and not only us. I mean, all the industry, all the operators in Costa Rica. No? So I think it's clearly, I would say, in Central America there are 2 data countries, which are Panama and Costa Rica. I mean, the voice is going to be, a minimum, and we are going to focus on the data and internet in all these countries.
Thank you.
One more question, or maybe 2.
If you set up a business in one of the countries, say Costa Rica, does it make it easier to do business in other countries in Central America, or does it really matter?
yeah, it makes it easier. The connection between the countries, for example, law firms. The law firms operating in Costa Rica have very close partners operating in Central America, and the legislature in the countries is somewhat similar. It won't necessarily make it quicker, but at least you'll be more informed, and you'll know a lot more of the process, so it will be less risky.
But you still have to go through that process.
You still have to go through the process at each of the countries, that is correct.
One more question, the last one, please.
Jorge, you mentioned that, thank you. You mentioned, hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You mentioned that, was it 10 gigabytes was what the average customer is utilizing per month. Is that because of the growth of video? And how does video play into your strategy? Video online.
Well, video is images. I mean, that's you have YouTube, you have a lot of video downloaded in all these countries, and again, it's amazing. We are every month really surprised of the amount of volume that we have. Again, I'll give you an example. We just started operations in Costa Rica again 7 months ago, no? And we have, well, over 400,000 customers in Costa Rica, no? And we have the highest volume of data within the Telefonica group in Central America. And we have countries like Guatemala where we have over 3 million customers. And with, well, 100,000 customers in Costa Rica, we have more data volume as a global amount that Guatemala or the Panama, that they have over 2 million customers, or the rest of the countries. So it's really, really amazing. And again, Costa Rica maybe is really, really different. I would say similar to Panama, but really different to the rest of Central America. But really, Costa Rica is an example and how advanced is all these video advertising communications world more than in other countries.
Thank you.
I'd like just to add a paragraph related to doing business in Central America. We were basically with Tribu, DDB in Costa Rica for about 18 years, in a way ignoring and not trying to address the reality that we must be present. You must be present in each one of the countries in one way or in another. And this is something that it's certainly costly, it is complex, it brings in an additional challenge to the whole process because there's no such a thing as a country. In fact, it's a regional, it's a geographical region, but not more than that, because differences from one country to the other are really amazing. However, by building a network or a sub-network in Central America, the opportunities do multiply in incredible ways, because we do have scarce. There aren't many solutions that are truly regional, with a complete presence in Central America. And for that reason, I think there is additional possibilities for whoever is interested in building out of Central America a solid and robust business.
Well, thank you all for your attendance. I hope we gave you an idea of what's happening in Central America. So thank you, my friends, colleagues, and thank you, Marcos. Congratulations for this great event.